What is culture? Does it have any influence or tie to our mental health? Are culture and mental health important to be knowledgeable about, especially when it pertains to us or our society? Culture is defined as the manifestation of a set belief or beliefs or way of life amongst a population. And yes, the culture or cultures that you live in can have an impact on your mental health. Both culture and mental health are very important to be aware of, especially when it comes to your own well-being, your actual full health. It was once said by Rita Mae Brown that the statistics on sanity are that 1 in every 4 people are suffering from some type of mental illness. Look at your 3 best friends. If they're okay, then it's you. And on the topic of culture, Wendell Pierce once said that culture is the intersection of people and life itself. It is how we deal with life, love, birth, death, and disappointment. Both culture and mental health are widespread and impact everybody in some way, shape, or form. So it is extremely important that we know about them and understand them. The culture a person lives in plays a huge part in how they live their lives. The culture you're in can dictate or decide how you speak, how you interact with others, how you behave, what you do in your day-to-day life, how society affects the way you think or what you do in your day-to-day life. Your culture kind of sets up a schedule on how you live. For proof of this, I will be referencing medical journals and reports, and also a bit from my own personal experience. I will explore why culture and mental health are important, the effect or type of effects culture has on mental health, and what we should do now that we know this information. From my own personal experience, I know that mental health issues go beyond mentality. They can be physical as well. Your brain is the center of everything you do. Your brain tells your body what to do. It's in charge of everything. Everything goes through your brain first. So if there's something wrong, whether it be cognitively or actually wrong with a part of your brain, it's going to affect you physically. A small example would be anxiety. If you have severe anxiety, you're more prone to panic attacks or anxiety attacks. If you have one, your chest constricts, you get a pain, you start to hyperventilate, you get dizzy, you may pass out, you may get sick. Those are all physical effects of a mental health issue. And being aware of that and knowing how to treat it is extremely important to your overall well-being throughout your life. Same with ADHD. It's on a smaller scale, of course. With ADHD, you can't really control how much you fidget. You feel the need to fidget. Or even ADD, you can't pay attention. You lose focus. You may run into a wall or something because you're not paying attention. It's as simple as that. And what does culture have to do with it? Like I said earlier, culture is how we live our lives. It's a set way of life that we have, that we share with the people around us. So if culture affects how we think we should act, what we think we should do, what we think we should say, or what the normalities say we should do, then it's going to have an effect or impact on our mental health and well-being because they're connected. They both affect our way of life, and if they're both connecting or affecting one thing, they're going to butt heads at some point. A simple example would be like with teams. A team is like a subculture, whereas like ethnic or geographical cultures would be the main ones. In a team, you have the mentality to put your team before yourself. Whereas if you want to go out somewhere, you're going to make sure you're not going to bring the team down by doing so. It's a group mentality. It affects everybody. So it's going to affect how you live, and it may affect how you see yourself importance-wise. According to the report, Mental Health, Culture, Race, and Ethnicity, a report of the Surgeon General, the ways culture influences mental health are diverse. And it may affect how, one example would be how it affects the way you describe your symptoms. People will usually try to present their symptoms or explain the effects mental health is having on them in a culturally acceptable way. For instance, Asians, and I'll use them later on as an example as well, they will first admit or describe physical problems they're having before they would address any emotional issues they may or may not be having. In the article Cultural Influence on Mental Health, written by Sophia Andrade and published in the UC Berkeley Online Health Periodical, claims that people often think of mental health as a personal and individual issue that only concerns them, when in reality, it's a combination of genetic, biological, psychological, and societal factors. The article also claims that mental illnesses like schizophrenia have consistent presence throughout the globe, but depression, PTSD, and suicidal thoughts rates tend to be influenced by cultural and societal aspects. The way you cope with mental disease may differ depending on what culture you have. Some, especially, like I said, Asians, I'll use them again. Many Asian cultures are more likely to keep it inside. They're not going to express it. They're going to push it off to the side and ignore it. Cultural factors can also determine the amount of support you get from your community, family, and friends, which can influence your decision on whether or not to seek out help or consult anybody about it. As well, you might also face some stigma and stereotypes. You might be shunned or viewed as abnormal in your culture if you admit to having any mental issues or problems. Knowing all of this and how it can affect people immensely, it's really important that we stay on top of our own mental health and see how our cultures affect us. Again, I'll use Asians as an example. They have such, especially South Korea, their school system is so competitive. Their academics are insane. Some of these students, or most of them, spend 12 hours a day at school. Their parents pressure them. The society pressures them to be better, stand out, be on top. That's a lot of pressure for kids, and that's why South Korea's suicide rates are amongst the highest of all the nations in the world. Because that pressure can lead to mental illnesses, and in Asian cultures, you cope. The way you cope is you keep it inside. You don't express it, you don't tell anyone. And that builds up. And as issues pile on top of each other, you start to see no way out, leading to suicidal actions or thoughts. We should understand and realize the importance of staying on top of our mental health. It is crucial in maintaining our full well-being, physically, mentally, emotionally even. Coping styles. Make sure yours are healthy. Make sure they're not detrimental to you in any way. Make sure you're not hiding any mental illnesses. Don't be afraid to speak out. Don't let your culture, don't let the stigmas, the fear, the mistrust of the system prevent you from seeking help. As stated in the article, Cultural Influences on Mental Health, the one that's published in the UC Berkeley Internet Periodical, mental illness cannot simply be ignored and left untreated. Doing so significantly impacts a person's quality of life and can cause severe distress and secondary health effects. Meaning, if you leave one mental illness untreated and unresolved, it's going to snowball. You're going to pile more and more and more on top of each one, and ruin your mental health. It's going to take way longer to dig yourself out than it was to end up there. In conclusion, culture and mental health have a huge influence in how we live our lives. They practically run our lives. It's important to know that your culture could be having a negative effect on your mental health, or could be stopping you from coming forward or asking for help with any mental health issues you may be having. Be aware of yourself and your societal standards, but don't let anything stop you from seeking help or cause you to hide your problems. It's not good for you, and it'll only be worse in the end if you hide it.